Good afternoon. The time is now 4:34. Good afternoon and welcome to the April 23rd, 2025 Climate Change Action Plan Ad Hoc Committee meeting. I am Pamela Boozer-Strother, Committee Chair and District 3 Board Member. It brings me great pleasure to welcome everyone to today's meeting, and I look forward to our work together. For those unable to observe now, the meeting is being recorded and can be accessed on the PGCPS YouTube channel for later viewing. The agenda and documents can be found on PGCPS Board Docs, linked from the Board of Education homepage, where you will also find our newly launched committee section of that website that had been something our goal was to get up this year, and we were able to create that committee website. So everyone go to the Board of Education website and check that out. On this Earth Day 2025 week, I want to thank all of you for committing to this important oversight and partnership work. And I want to say I'm especially excited about today's meeting because we will have two agenda items led by PGCPS students who are members of this committee and their peers who work with them outside this committee. And we'll meet some of those folks as the meeting progresses. Ms. McMillan, please go ahead and call the roll.
Boozer-Strother,
Present.
Donald Bell, Kate Wunderlich,
Present.
Giazi Gomez, Joseph Jakuta,
Present.
Christina Kwok,
Present.
Timothy Meyer,
Present.
Dorothy Morrison,
Present.
David Noto,
Present.
Beth Novick,
Present.
Ramon Palencia Calvo,
Present.
Benjamin Roche, Antoine Thompson, James Duban Garcia,
Present.
Maya Gudera, Olivia Thomas,
Present.
Sophia Villar, and Macau Witherspoon.
Present.
Thank you so much. With a quorum present, the Climate Change Action Plan Ad Hoc Committee meeting will come to order. 1.2, adoption of the meeting agenda. If there are no objections, the committee shall adopt the April 23rd, 2025 meeting agenda. There being no objections, the April 23rd, 2025 meeting agenda is adopted. Agenda item 1.4, approval of the meeting minutes. If there are no corrections, the committee shall approve the March 5th, 2025 meeting minutes as distributed. There being no corrections, the March 5th, 2025 meeting minutes are. Item 2.0, presentations. There are 4 items for discussion this evening. We will limit each member's questions and feedback to 2.5 minutes per round. Unless a motion is taken for additional rounds, there will be 2 rounds per agenda item. Item 2.1, we will begin with the Director of Sustainability report, and I recognize Director Morrison for this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Boozer-Struthers. Cindy, do you have the presentation?
Is that the one you sent?
To show on the screen? I'm sorry?
Is that the one you sent this morning?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'm not sure when I sent it. I think, when did I send it? This morning or this afternoon? But are you able to pull it
Got
up?
you.
It's a
Okay.
link. Okay. There we go. All right, next slide. Thank you. No, I think you missed
Pardon.
one.
Sorry, it says we're still in a practice session.
Oh, we are? I just saw that on it says practice on my screen too.
It's recording. It's fine.
It is recording?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I'll get started. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here. So I'll be brief, just have some few updates because the most important part of the meeting is yet to come for our student presentations. With regards to the loss of our federal partners in the funding area, that continues to be a concern. So we do acknowledge that as a result of the loss of federal funding, it might slow some of our programs down and things that we were planning for, but nonetheless, we will continue to do the work and we will continue to rely on state partnerships as well as philanthropic partners to help us sort of fill in the gap for the lack of federal funding. We're also going to use this opportunity to sort of hone in on more internal infrastructure, things like management systems, getting them squared away, operating procedures, and training in-house about climate change and climate action. With regards to our grant application, I just wanted to give some updates. So what you see in purple there is just an update. We had applied for an MEA grant in January, and good news, we were awarded on March 11th, $143,000, which will go towards helping us continue to build on our energy database. And the second item or grant that we applied for was, I think it was up to $3 million for up to 9 electric school buses. So this is sort of a reimbursement. So we will purchase the buses and be reimbursed up to $3 million by the state. We have not heard anything yet, but we submitted the application on March the 17th. We also submitted an application to install solar at Walker Mills Middle School. And that was submitted March 26th, and we are waiting for that as well. Next slide, please. Okay, with regards to the CCAP related operating policies, we have the sustainability policy 0111 and the purchasing policy 3323. Both of those have been reviewed internally and updated for consideration by the board on April the 29th. So we worked with our internal legal team to help review those changes that we recommend. And the second item here, continued collaboration with the county DOE to work on resiliency. So using our school grounds as resiliency hubs. And you'll probably hear more about those at the SEAS Summit and later on, more to come on that. But just wanted to let folks know that that's something that we're partnering with the County Department of Environment on. Another good news, we were recognized. Ellen Ochoa received an award for Leadership in Energy Efficiency Design LEEDS Gold certification. Even though we applied for silver, we did receive LEED Gold, so that's good news. And as I mentioned earlier, we will be having a half-a-day sustainability and climate leadership workshop at the SEAS. So this year we will have it in conjunction with SEAS at Bowie State University. And it is tomorrow starting at 9 o'clock till maybe about 1:50. And food waste reduction, happy to report that we were able to add 4 additional schools this quarter. And there you see them there, Judith Hoyer Montessori, University Park Elementary School, Calverton Elementary, and James McHenry Elementary School. So those are the 4 schools we were able to add in our composting program. And I guess the last slide or graphic really just ushers us into today's focus discussion, which will be centered around sustainable materials management and procurement and food waste reduction. So with that, now, Board Member Boozer Struthers, do we want to jump right in with Director Kirkland, or do you have some words to say? Or questions probably, right? Do folks have any questions?
Yeah, we can move to questions. We have about five more minutes for this
Okay.
segment. So if there's any questions right now on the director's report, we could go ahead and take those. All right, I'm not seeing any hands. Thank you so much, Director Morrison, for that good news, where it is good news. I know
Yes.
the federal news is not good news, but we will continue to move forward. We will be moving now into our climate change action plan priority area updates, item 2.3, priority 6, operational action 2. I'm sorry, think I just skipped 2.2. Priority 5, reduce food waste and grow climate-friendly food. And priority 6, commit to sustainable materials management and procurement. And Director Morrison, I'll have you begin introductions for this agenda item. Thank you.
Sure. So for that agenda item, the team that we have from administration is Director Mary Kirkland. We have Miss Sarah Gillespie, Director Mary Kirkland. She's the Director of Food and Nutrition. We have Sarah Gillespie. She's our recycling coordinator. So those are the two main presenters. We also have Christina Garcia Starling, who is going to be in charge of the, I'm trying to remember all these little, hold on a second, let me just make sure I'm saying them correctly because I have an abbreviation here. So Christina will be responsible for sustainable materials management and procurement. So this is how we listed it on the priority area. So we have, that's the team for today's presentation, focus presentation. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mary Kirkland, Director Kirkland.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mary Kirkland. I'm the new director for Food Nutrition Services with Prince George's County Public Schools. And just starting with the updates. So in terms of operational action item OA1, which is to incorporate student, parent, staff, and community stakeholders input into the tasting panel and student surveys if you choose to and surveys. So for this one here, right now, currently, we do not have a panel to do our taste test. However, that is something that we're looking to build as we also build our central office staff who will host those committees. So that committee will be led by our nutrition specialist 1 and our nutrition specialist 2. The goal is for us to redo our menus, right? But when we redo our menus to get student feedback so that students are involved. And how do we want to do this? We want to create a panel with students who are committed to making sure that that they enjoy the food that they eat, but they also understand the guidelines that we have to work within. So there's an educational aspect of it, but also a part where they will be collaborating and involved in. And that is just to bring new menu items, whether it is meat or meat alternate, whether it's vegan, vegetarian, halal, kosher, but to have students who have different palates, who have maybe different religious views to be a part of that so that we can build a menu that our students enjoy and that they can all take part in. In terms of parents, staff, and community stakeholders, how we would go about doing that part, how I envision us doing that part is when we have parent nights at schools, that will look like us setting up a taste test, either at the beginning or the end of maybe say if it's a math night or a STEM night or something like that, or a reading night at a school, having parents come in with their students, they sit down, they taste it together, they give feedback. So then the parent and the student are involved, as well as the administration, and even say if the board member for that district was there, they would be a part of it as well too. So it's really encompassing everyone who is involved in helping the student grow. And so then therefore everybody has a part in it to ensure that it's a well-rounded menu and that we're focusing more so on what our students like and making sure that we're just educating everyone on the nutritionals and why we have to have certain food, like why we like what a commodity is, or why we may have, like why things are breaded because they're whole grain. So just educating everyone, but then also making sure that we have everyone be a part of it. So that is the vision, and we look forward to having that start, or at least the footwork of it begin over the summer, to at least build the criteria for it and what we're looking for in terms of, I would say, a student, and meaning not that all students can't be involved, but those students who will be the student voice and the student leaders to lead this charge to ensure that students in the schools know that the students who are a part of the committee are the voice of the students, and though that is who they can go back to get feedback, to bring back to the committee, myself and other food nutrition staff, so then we can make a better, well-rounded decision for our menus and making sure that they're nutritional, they're whole grain, and things of that nature. Should I keep going, or are there questions that should be asked? Sorry.
If you have any significant updates to keep going, but if many of these items are now just at the beginning with your new work as director, we totally understand that. Like if all of these are sort of in a similar place.
Well, I would definitely say, in terms of, I want to not to skip to the adaptation action item A1. But it's the continue to participate in the Maryland Farm to School program. So as everyone may know, the funds for that was cut. There was a program, Local School for Foods, where those funds, it was $1 billion that was cut. Not $1 billion from Prince George's County. There were $8 million that was designated for Maryland, $6 million for school districts, and that's across Maryland as a whole. That was supposed to be cut for next school year. However, we did get news that they have extended that program until November of next year. So we're going to continue in that realm of working with our partner, Moon Valley Farms, to provide fresh local produce to our students. We are looking to ensure that we can use those grant funds over the summer so that we can provide that to our students who will be in our summer food service program. And so in terms of, it was, the implement values of the climate food service. So I will say, I know that there was a meeting that we had earlier this year where I had spoke with a lot of different, I would say, community partners to bridge the work that they do with FNS, and to build those partnerships to know how we can have a larger footprint, not just for FNS, but for our students as well too, and how we can provide more resources to them as it relates to food. And so with that, one of the individuals, it was Chloe Waterman. While we spoke in that meeting, and we did talk about the survey, that we haven't connected back on that survey to get the student feedback, but I have worked with, can't think of the name of the office, but there was an office in which I worked with where they provided a survey to me of just student feedback and what students were looking for in terms of meals and in terms of school lunches or school breakfast. And working with that team, that has provided us a whole although it was not necessarily specific, most students just said they wanted better food. That has been that has helped begin the starting point to understand where to start when it comes to asking the question of what does better mean. And so from there, we've gotten that feedback, we've looked through it, and we're using it as a stepping stone to build out our criteria for our students who will be part of our committee. So that one goes hand in hand with kind of like action item number 1. I will say, in terms of implement values driven climate friendly food service, I don't have an update in that area at this time. And then, oh, no, that's all that I have.
Great, thank you so much. And it's, welcome to PGCPS and welcome to the work of this committee. We're so happy to have you and to continue, building upon these action items with you. So I think priority 6 is next. Is that right, Director Morrison?
So I believe it is just Mary for now. I also wanted to add to Mary's, I guess you were trying to think of the name of that office. And that office is Office of Strategic Planning. Does that ring a bell? Because they do these surveys,
Yes.
they do the annual climate survey. And it
Yes.
spans everything from, the food, the culture, the school system. So yeah, so those very good office to sort of work with in terms of, getting surveys out because they do a great job. Now, are there any questions for Ms. Kirkland? Okay, so with that, I don't know if she's able to have access. So sustainable materials management and procurement was an area that we didn't have necessarily a lead person that was in charge. So Christina, moving forward, this will be her lead area. Now, Christina, if you want to say a few words about that, that's perfectly fine. If not, we'll just go on to questions.
Yeah, could we put those up? I think I saw a slide with priority 6 had popped up for a second. Thank you.
Well, we've tried to start with the momentum, get going with the momentum. So we have the sustainable purchasing policy, which we have internally reviewed and met with other stakeholders like the purchasing department, and that will be reviewed at the next board meeting on the 29th, I believe. Director Dorothy had mentioned that, and we are evaluating some of these other areas as well in terms of reducing the school meal packaging sent to landfill and just trying to work really with purchasing with their RFPs, just in terms of really being able to have a better assessment of the type of vendors, and also in terms of what should be implemented for environmentally prefer products and items for the schools. So I think that's an area that we're continuing to move forward. We're still promoting recycling and waste reduction in PGC, and that's an area that Sarah's been really promoting, and we are actually also working with purchasing and procuring that, and also finding the vendor that would not only provide the service, but also the quality and level of service that we need in those two areas. So those are some of the upcoming projects that we are working on in this area as we try to target our overall carbon footprint reduction.
Thank you for that, Christina. And with that, I'll turn it over to Board Member Buza Struthers. And I
Right.
don't know if we have any questions.
Yeah, we have a few minutes in this section for questions. If there's anyone who has a question at this time, we could go ahead and take that. Please go ahead and raise your Zoom hand. All right, I'm not seeing any hands go up, so I will, oh, there. We have invited some guests who are part of the meeting that Director Kirkland mentioned, and I see one has raised her hand, and I'm going to go ahead and give her invite her to join our conversation. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and your organization. Is it Ms. Burton?
Hi, yes, thank you so much, Pamela. My name is Michelle Burton, and I'm with the Food Equity Council, which is housed underneath the Institute for Public Health Innovation. And, Mary, we just welcome you so much and appreciate what you're doing for Prince George's County Public Schools. I'm raising a question because I am working on a project and I wanted to raise it for your awareness that we're working with food recovery and working with urban farmers in Prince George's County. And we're using this app that's developed by the University of Maryland that connects access produce to food pantries. And I just wanted to put a bug like in everyone's ear if this would be of interest moving forward. If there would be any way that we could connect some of that excess produce, given what you were just saying with the challenges with the farm to school program of connecting with Maryland farmers. I know there are a number of logistical issues to work out, but I did want to flag that. And if you think that could be something that we could work towards in the coming year, would really love to collaborate on that, even if it's getting the produce to the families or if it's getting produce to the schools. If you want to do a working session down the line, we can talk more.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Burton. Any immediate responses, Director Kirkland?
Yeah, so thank you for sharing. I think that is great to know that is a resource that is currently out there for the families. I will say, I don't know, I would say in collaboration with food services, I think it'll be more of a collaboration with food services and community schools. So that, because I know if it was for our cafeterias, I'm not sure how if they could do the volume, right, that we would need, but I know that if we really honed in on the community schools, I think we will have a great reach as well too. And as well, there's another, I will definitely be open to a working session to talk through this, because in working with community schools and there's another program within PGCPS, and the name is not coming to me, but I had a meeting with them maybe last month, and we were looking at a program and how we can provide they need a lot of ready individually wrapped items. And so we're looking at costing out a box of a meal box of individually wrapped items for students. And I think that produce would go hand in hand in making sure that at least they have fresh produce to go along with those individually wrapped items that could be seen as, processed and things of that nature, but nonetheless still whole grain, still providing nutritional value. And I think that adding the fresh produce, whether it's vegetables or fruit, to that would make that more of a heartier box for our students. So to know that that's out there, I would definitely like to connect to see how we can collaborate and build something grander for our students, whether it's with community schools or with the other program.
Great. And I'll just say really quickly that it could go the other way, that if you have items that are going to waste, we could also pick them up and send them to our local pantries too. So thank you for your
Oh, sorry. I think that would be great, because I know after we just had spring break, and it was a long spring break. And one thing that I know that we do try to order less of, but we have to make sure we have enough for the students for the actual school day, is our milk. And so knowing that even if we have milk, it's not going to last until a whole week until we get back. It may last throughout that week of spring break. We could donate that to the pantry, so then they can then provide that some way, somehow, to those families if it's something that we know is going to go to waste. So to help reduce the amount of waste that we do have from our cafeterias as it relates to our milk.
Yeah, great. Thank you both so much. I see Mr. Roberson has his hand up.
I do have a question, but Dorothy may have beat me to that, so I didn't want to jump ahead of line. But so
You got the mic, so you might as well ask
That's
it.
right. You should go for it.
All right.
It's the same question that we have then. Hey, so be it. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to put a think about it out there. We see a lot of waste in cafeterias, like from the plastic milk bottles to the trays, to things that perhaps there are other solutions. So for example, milk machines or food trays that could be washed. And so just think about, I don't know how that plays out in reality, but it would reduce the amount of plastic waste that we're producing as a system. The trays aren't plastic, they are cardboard, and some schools can compost those, but it would still reduce the amount of waste we're producing. So I wanted to put that out there. I know that's something that the Schmidt Center is interested in and demonstrating. So any comments you have are welcome.
Yeah, that's great. I think what we'll do is that I think is really well aligned to our next agenda item and how we are, so, taking these problems and then doing solution practice around them. So I think you're headed exactly in the direction that we want to go with this priority area. And so just for the interest of time, I just want to shout out that absolutely those are you're calling out exactly what these priority areas combined are where we want to head to. Director Morrison, do you have any questions at this
Yeah, I mean,
time? Are we ready for
yeah, I'll just
agenda
be really
item?
brief. Yeah, it was a clarifying question I had for Miss Burton. But to I guess James's point, we do have the shared table concept where, the students put what they don't want to eat in a particular area, so that we can kind of organize that to go towards communities. I don't know the volume of food that we get out of that. Sarah could probably speak more to that. But so yeah, it would be, I can see a niche where we can provide, those foods to the community versus it being wasted. And I was also curious to know, you mentioned that you were working with local farmers. Are these farmers throughout the state of Maryland? Are these Prince George's County farmers? Do you have a list of all the small farmers that are out there?
I could provide that list, and
Okay,
we're working with Prince George's County farmers.
okay, Prince George's County specifically, okay. All
Yeah,
right, thank you.
yeah.
All right, great. Thank you, Ms. Burton, for adding to our conversation today. This is great news. And of course, I think most people here know that anytime we talk about community schools, which means we're talking about the Blueprint for Maryland's Future, Pillar 4, that I am always very happy as a board member that we're making these connections and bringing all of our various, board oversight committees together to improve our students' lives and our families' lives through the blueprint. And food access is a big part of that, and community schools is doing that quite successfully, and all of the partnerships really matter. So thank you so much, and thank you to the Food Equity Council for all that you do for all Prince Georgians. All right, so I will move to our next agenda item. We are moving to 2.3, Priority 6, Operational Action 2, Reduce School Meal Packaging Sent to Landfill. And today we're focusing on eliminating the use of plastic bags in school-based food service. And so I will start with, I think we could start with Ms. Novick to introduce our student team that is bringing this problem of practice case study to us. They will present for about, I think about 20 minutes, and then we will have about a similar amount of time for reflection and discussion. So Ms. Novak, if you would like to kick us off. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm going to start with Ms. Kirkland. Thank you so much for meeting with, you guys want to turn your sound on from it? For meeting with the students, James, Olivia, and Noah before spring break. And that was really like an epiphany moment for them. They, first of all, felt heard. You used language that they could understand. You really spoke to them, explained terminology to them, really invited them to be part of an important conversation. And I think it gave them the confidence from there to move forward as strong members in this community that had a voice and an opportunity to express their concerns. And Ms. Garcia, we're so happy to have you here because this topic really blends both Ms. Kirkland and Ms. Garcia, your offices, your departments. And so it's great that we're all here together. we just were having a conversation someplace, Olivia, and maybe it was our CCAP group, and Olivia said, oh, I guess it was last time at our CCAP, at the ad hoc committee meeting where Olivia mentioned she wondered why we had plastic bags served at breakfast if they were banned in Prince George's County. And Ms. Boozer Strother invited her to explore that topic. She was very fortunate that Noah is on our environmental team at Kenmore Middle School with another group of eighth graders, which, yes, will be presenting tomorrow at the SEAS conference on the topic of litter, which also they have noticed they would like to do something about. So they have worked together, Noah and Olivia, for months. Since we first talked on, I guess I looked at the date, it was March 5th. So it's been about 6 weeks on this project. And now I'm going to turn it over to them. They are both eighth grade students. They're advanced eighth grade students. They're in all honors coursework. They're very bright. You're going to recognize that right away. And they're passionate about ideas that really they want to make change with. And their team of Michael Witherspoon, James Dubon Garcia, and Maya Godera, they are one big group of students who have taken the initiative and really work with professionalism. So take it over, guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you all see our screen? Okay. Let me just move this over. Okay, so this is plastic bags in our schools, and are they necessary? The problem of practice presented by youth climate leaders of Prince George's County, Olivia Thomas and Noah Agbede. Oh, it is? Sorry. Okay. Plastic bags in our schools, are they necessary? Problem of practice presented by youth climate leaders of Prince George's County, me, Olivia Thomas, and Noah Agbede. Slideshow. Michael Witherspoon, James Dubon Garcia, and Maya Gudera. And this is what we're going to be presenting as our problem of practice today.
So our climate change action plan priority recommendations alignment. This problem of practice addresses two climate change action plan goals. Goal 6, commit to sustainable materials management and procurement, and Goal 8, lead by example to support transformational change.
At Kenmore Middle School's daily breakfast time, which is served in the school cafeteria, plastic bags are used for containing cereal packages. So when we saw this, it made us wonder, if plastic bags are banned in Prince George's County, why are we still using them here in our schools? Especially since what we noticed at the time, they seemed useless since the cereal was already in an enclosed container as shown in this picture.
We mentioned this wondering at a CCAP meeting, and Miss Pamela Bueller Struthers said that she would help us explore this question because it definitely aligned with CCAP goals 6 and 8. With Miss Bueller Struthers' support, the students from the ad hoc committee have been doing research on this topic using a problem practice protocol, a structured process for teams to analyze and seek feedback on a specific challenge or dilemma they are facing in their work, district, or school. It's a way to collaboratively explore a problem, gain diverse perspectives, and ultimately develop an effective approach.
So today we are going to present information and guide a discussion about the problem of plastic bags being used in a seemingly unnecessary way at PGCPS breakfast in hopes that we can develop an effective approach to serving breakfast to our students without using plastic bags.
We started by reaching out to PGCPS leadership and asked them to respond to questions on the document. The following people were invited: Ms. Mary Kirkland from Food and Nutrition Services, Ms. Denerica Johnson and Ms. Kimberly Allen from Purchasing, Ms. Sarah Gillespie and from Recycling and Composting, Ms. Shayla Stephen and Dorothy Morrison from DSR. Ms. Denerica Johnson, Kimberly Allen, and Sarah Gillespie responded, but we were left with more questions than answers.
So we reached out by email to Mary Kirkland, and she agreed to participate in a Zoom meeting. In attendance at that meeting was James Juan Garcia, who assisted in taking notes and providing feedback on our work. Noah Agbede and I, who helped make and present this. The rest of this presentation is based on that discussion and some additional research we did on this topic. During the meeting, we asked Mary Kirkland the following questions. Oh, sorry. So the first question we asked was, we wondered, based on responses from PGCPS leadership, who the end user is. And Mary Kirkland suggested it might be the students, since they're the last to use it.
The second question we asked was what the primary reason for using these plastic bags in our school. And Ms. Mary Kirkland believes it's related to the MMFA and CEP programs and the plan to simplify eating breakfast in school. She said that the Maryland Meals for Achievement, or MMFA, required students in elementary schools to put their food in plastic bags to eat in the classroom. In addition, COVID-19 caused students to have to eat their food in a classroom as part of protective measures during the pandemic from 2019 to 2020.
The next question we asked was, what was the primary reason for using plastic bags in PGCPS? And she answered that in order to be reimbursed for the breakfast meals from MMFA, students need to take a food from each of the 5 food groups. And the plastic bag is a way to easily monitor that each student received the full meal and provides the students with a simple way to carry it to their eating location. Another thing we learned was that 5.2 million students will receive breakfast in the school year 2024 to 2025, and that each school abides by their own considerations and regulations regarding their food and nutrition requirements. For example, Title I schools, MMFA, and CEP schools. So this is more about MMFA and CEP. So MMFA, or Maryland Meals for Achievement, offers meals to students from all families regardless of their income. And to qualify, a school must have at least 40% of its students eligible for free or reduced price meals. And CEP, or Community Eligibility Provision, is a partnership of United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, and 124 schools are in participation, provides nutrition meals at no cost to approximately 82,000 students, Kenmore Middle School being one of the 124 schools who participate in this program.
So the next question we asked is, do the plastic bags come prepackaged with the cereal or are they provided separately? And Ms. Mary Kirkland said that the plastic bags are provided separate from the cereal.
We also asked if the cafeteria workers have to put the cereal in the bag every morning. Mary Kirkland assumed that food distribution with plastic bags became a practice after COVID-19.
The next question was, could this step be removing plastic bags from schools that don't eat in the classroom? Mary Kirkland responded, saying she doesn't know, but she'll come visit KMS and see if the use of plastic bags could be reduced in middle and high schools. In some schools, plastic bags may not serve a purpose and could be removed.
Another question we asked is if Maryland Meals for Achievement is for all schools or just some schools. She said that the funding comes from the state and then they select the schools that are provided with the MMFA program. CEP provides free breakfast and lunch, and because the majority of schools are now CEP schools, MMFA's ways of providing school meals may have stuck with them.
Another question we asked was, are all middle school students still eating in the classroom or is it just some of them? And the answer we got was that there are many different models for MMFA, such as eating in the classroom, cafeteria, or other locations. And Miss Mary Kirkland can attest to the differences due to her newly given position. MMFA is also for all schools and not just middle schools. Ms. Kirkland is going to visit these different schools, especially Kenmore, to see the different ways food is offered at them.
So another question we asked is approximately how many students receive breakfast annually in the district? So Mary
So
Kirkland,
wait a minute. I'm going to interrupt for just 1 minute. I we talked about this last night. It's not 5.2 million, Mary. So if at the end of this, you can clarify for the students how many people do, I don't know where we got 5.2 million. It was in somewhere in that discussion, but you might want to clarify at the end how many students are receiving breakfast annually in the district.
Okay.
So question 10 is, who is the supplier of the plastic breakfast bags used in the district? And Mary Kirkland answered that it's the Acme paper that supplies the plastic bags, but we don't know the cost yet.
Question 11 is, what factors contributed to plastic breakfast bags not being included in previous plastic bag reduction initiatives for the greater Prince George's County community? And Sarah Gillespie answered in the question document that we sent out, saying that Prince George's County Better Bag Bill focused on the single-use plastic carryout bags given out by retailers at the point of sale and not at schools.
Question 12 asks, how can we find out if other schools are following the same breakfast procedures, and how can we reduce the plastic bags in the schools? So we found out that every school is different, so it may take a long time to actually complete the process. On a county level, because of this, effective communication to the administration and cafeteria staff when making big changes like plastic bags are crucial. The cereal that is provided inside of the plastic bags is provided separate from the plastic bag it's actually in. A question for our own Kenmore staff would be, do they put the cereal in the bags each morning for students?
So, questions Mary Kirkland was going to research between the time of our meeting and this CCAP meeting are, how many schools use plastic bags, the annual cost of purchasing the bags, and lastly, how can we eliminate the use of plastic bags with the end users, being cafeteria workers and students in the schools' best interest in mind?
As part of our next phase of this discussion, we would like Ms. Mary Kirkland and the CCAP ad hoc committee to consider this important question. Could a first step be removing the plastic bags from schools who don't eat breakfast in the classroom? At this time, we invite you to join us to collaboratively explore the problem further, gain diverse perspectives, and ultimately develop a more effective approach to the problem of having plastic bags distributed as a part of the breakfast service in our schools. Thank you.
Oh, well, I'll go ahead and jump in. I just want to congratulate you and thank you for this presentation. I would have never ever guessed there was such a depth of questions and information to understand around the plastic bag. So fantastic job. And so what for next steps for the committee, we're not going to jump right to putting our highest ranking administrator, Ms. Kirkland, as Director of Food and Nutrition Services, right on the spot. I was hoping that the committee could reflect both on the presentation, what surprised you, what interested you, the feedback for the students, and new questions that questions came up for you that you didn't see on it presented. So if everyone would like to go ahead and raise their hands, if anyone would like to get us started, that would be great. All right, I see our presenters put their hands up just in case you had something to say before I call on Miss Kwok. I'm going to go ahead and give you the mic for a second.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a question for Ms. Kirkland. Wanted to know the actual number of students that eat breakfast in this school year 2024 to 2025.
So in terms of an average for the school district on a daily basis, anywhere from 45 to 50,000 students eat breakfast per day within the school district. And that's broken down from elementary, middle, and high school combined together, as well as pre-K kindergarten.
Thank you.
Do you have any idea where that 5.2 million number came from?
Yes, so the 5.2 million, that is how many breakfasts we have served overall this school year.
Okay, that's important. We're going to adjust that information in the presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for the clarification on the 5.2 million. 5.2 million breakfasts a year, that is a lot. I'll go in the order of the hands that I saw raised, Ms. Kwok, Mr. Roberson, and Mr. Noto.
Thanks so much. And just to echo what Pamela said, just an excellent presentation and an excellent example of what students can do when they connect their passion and interest with scientific inquiry. So just kudos to you all for such a great research and presentation. I was really struck by how COVID-19 has sort of shaped our current practice, especially around the need for packaging with plastic bags. So that was something that I was surprised by, but perhaps shouldn't have been surprised given just how seismic the shifts in response the school system had to, the types of actions the school system had to take on. And I guess this is a really good reminder that, we've sort of moved beyond that period of our history, and perhaps there are things that we need to question critically in terms of why we still do those things. And I think just it was a really good reminder that maybe we should also kind of audit many of our different practices to see what was sort of a legacy of COVID and how we might, what we might need to adjust. But I wanted to ask a question about, because it sounds like there are some logistical challenges, especially when it comes to trying to ensure students are getting all their different food groups, trying to think of convenience, and many of the different issues that you all raised. And I was curious if if compostable bags ever came into the picture, and if that could help kind of multi-solve both the logistical challenges on the food and nutrition side, but then also the environmental challenges when it comes to just having so much plastic. So I was curious if that ever came up, and what would it take to kind of convert to that, if that is the solution? I mean, we want to get at the core root cause of the problem of plastic, but given that some of the planning challenges on the county side, maybe that might be something if explore. Thanks. That's it for me.
Great, Ms. Kwok. I think, the way you asked that question in terms of did it come up in the work done to date, I'll have the students answer if they reach the point of exploring that alternative.
So from what we know so far, I don't think that compostable bags have been looked at yet, because one of the reasons for using plastic bags is it's also used, like you said, the 5 food groups. It's used to make sure that students are taking all of the foods that are necessary.
I think that compostable bags is a good idea if we could replace them for the plastic ones. I don't know if that's possible, but it's just an idea.
Could I add on to support Olivia or just to support the students?
Absolutely, Director Kirkland. When you want to jump in, I just want to make sure that
I don't want to take away from the students. So I do want to say that I think the overall goal is to eliminate the bags, right? Not to necessarily just make the switch. And so I would say that I think I guess to start, because I know myself, and when I spoke with the students, we talked about MMFA and why the bag is used. Yes, it's a residual from the pandemic, but also to note that yes, it has been used, or it could be being used to make sure that they take all the components. But the plastic bag in itself is something that it's not compliance with the Maryland Meals for Achievement program. And so understanding that in itself shifts us from using the plastic bags because you cannot serve, it's offer versus serve. So when you put everything in a bag, that creates a unitized meal. Students no longer are able to choose what it is they want to eat. And so for that reason in itself, if it's served inside of the actual classroom where the students are eating, we as food and nutrition services are not allowed to put items inside of a bag. And so this is in working in other school districts, knowing how the program is supposed to operate, but also learning that this is how it's operating within some of our schools here. That is something that raises a flag for me to understand that this is something that is non-compliant. So to meet the goal in which is here to remove the bags, I think that this is a great starting point because it's something that we can't continue on for next school year. So when it comes to the barriers, I think I'm not too familiar with all the administration within Prince George's County, but I think it's communicating to those administrators who have also been used to students having these bags to carry food from the cafeteria to their rooms or their respective places to consume food, that those bags will no longer be available for that next school year. And so I see that as at least the biggest challenge, because I don't know the impact that it will have on those schools and how they operate on a day-to-day basis. And so I guess to know that, like specifically at Kenmore, they do not have Maryland Meals for Achievement. So there is no need for the bag, because we also discussed that in our conversation. There is no need for the bag at Kenmore. And so before that change is made is to speak with the administration to let them know this is what's happening, because I don't want to go, we don't, as food nutrition services, while it's something as small as a plastic bag, I don't know the impact that it could have on their school operation outside of meal service and how it relates to the academic day. And so I just want to make sure that we are having, if it's something that goes out as just a notice to say the plastic bags are removed, we can do that. I don't even know if schools will notice if the bags are not there. I'm not exactly sure, but I think to know that for next school year, now knowing that this is something that it helps us align within the goals of the action of the climate change action plan. The goal is still to remove the bags, not necessarily replace them with compostable bags.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for the responses. I'll move to Mr. Roberson's comments now.
Thank you. So I want to first start by congratulating the students on a really clear, well-researched presentation, and also say that I'm just really proud that we have students that have the courage to really start change. So well done. So my first question was the same as Ms. Quox, so I'm going to move on from that. I just had wondered from the students if it sounded like one or both of you had a question about, your driving question was, Prince George's has a ban on plastic bags, so why are the schools still using them? Which is excellent. I just wondered if you had heard other student concerns along the same lines. And my second question is, did you consider interviewing the food service staff on site at Kenmore? It's really awesome that you went to a primary resource for the information, but I was just curious if you talked to them as well.
So for your first question, I know I didn't really see, you didn't see it? Yeah, we didn't really see any students talking about it. Really, it was just a notice that we had seen one day, and we had just wondered, due to like previous knowledge of like the plastic bag ban in PG County in general. And to your second question, we had like considered talking to them, but we never really actually ended up talking to them about
All right, thank you all so much. Mr. Noto is next.
Thanks. So I actually had a couple of questions, but first, I wanted to, again, congratulate you all on the work that you did on this. This is actually a subject that I am very interested in. This is part of what I actually have studied in the past. Not the plastic bags portion of it, but school meals in general is something that I've actually studied at the graduate level in the past. So, and you all got surprisingly into the weeds for it. So congratulations on that, because this can be very, very complicated to learn about. So I'm really impressed. So my question is similar to something that Christina mentioned earlier, which is, what's to stop us from just using paper bags, which may not necessarily be recyclable, but I mean, I feel like are just a cheap and easy alternative. But then I guess this is perhaps more of a question for Ms. Kirkland, which is that, as I understand it, schools that participate in the Maryland Meals for Achievement program are specifically getting breakfast that the students are supposed to be eating in the classroom. It's not necessarily to be provided in the cafeteria, and so there may be a difference then for meals that are provided in schools that receive funding for MMFA versus schools that are not. And then I suppose the last question, this is also for Ms. Kirkland, which is, do schools get fully reimbursed for what I guess would be like an incomplete meal, where a student would only grab, say, like the cereal, but not get the other portions that would constitute a full meal? So yeah, that's all I have.
Okay. So going backwards from your question, just working backwards. So if a student does not grab a complete meal, then those items will have to be purchased a la carte. So we encourage the student to always go back and get a complete meal. That's in traditional breakfast. For MMFA, it has evolved over time. It used to be to where the food had to be delivered to the classroom and students have to eat in the classroom. However, as schools have evolved, the legislation has now allowed us to serve students from kiosk, so they can grab it and go to their classrooms, or they can go to the cafeteria line and grab their food and then go to the classroom, and it still be an MMFA school. And this was because sometimes if you have a high school that's that's MMFA, it can be a very large school, and the footprint of the school with the amount of food you have to provide, it just does not provide a quality product, one, but then also food, it could compromise the food that's served in terms of it being outside of the temperature danger zone and things of that nature. So they have redone the regs to where we can have different service models for MMFA based on the schools. And that's at the choice of, I would say, food nutrition, but as food and nutrition, in my experience, we give the choice to the administrator to say, which model would you like based on the layout of your school in terms of when students are coming into the building, things of that nature. So, to answer the question, if a student does not take a whole meal, they are encouraged to go back to get the entire meal so that we can claim it. But if they do not grab it at MMFA, if they do not grab a whole meal, we cannot claim that meal. But in terms of, I think I answered them both of those in one. Because I wrote down different models for meal service for your first question. So it's basically different models that we can implement in schools. So therefore, we can serve them in the classroom, at a grab and go kiosk, or through the line. But I think to also know that there are schools that, specifically in Prince George's County, there's it's not a program, it's a model. So it's called Breakfast in the Classroom. So you have schools that practice the MMFA model, but they are not an MMFA school, if that makes sense. So And I believe that that is a residual of those schools were possibly an MMFA school prior, and the principal wanted to keep the model, and they were told they could keep the model because that's what they have been used to, and therefore they have breakfast in the classroom, but it is not an MMFA school. It is a traditional breakfast school.
Great, thank you so much, Olivia and Noah. Responses to the first part of the question around the classic, the lunch bag, which of course has stood the test of time, decades of the brown paper bag that is used, you know, that has been used. Did that come up?
So you're talking about the first question, right? Okay. So, we were thinking about that, and we said that it might not be a good idea just to use paper bags instead, because paper bags still take trees to be made. So it's also not the best for the environment, especially if we could just like eliminate them to begin with, if they're not necessary.
Thank you. Makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense.
like, yes, no more trees. Cut down for bags, great. Let's see, I see Ms. Garcia has her hand up and Ms. Novak, and I think that gives us enough time for the next two questions and for this agenda item.
Hi, thank you. I just wonder, congratulate the students on just the common sense in your presentation. You know, you saw that the cereal was already in its package and it's still in another plastic bag. And I think that's where our work really comes in hand. So I really want to commend you all on how you've started this process. And the great work that we're doing with the purchasing department. As a really, you know, as a starting point, really establishing that purchasing policy with the guidelines on environmentally preferred products, and really analyzing and assessing how we can integrate the sustainable purchasing policy to contracts and vendors. What we've discovered in this process too, as we looked into the bags, how that decision was made, that was also a purchase that was done on a written on a contract that was already established and not specific with a partner county of ours. So, you know, that's something that it's still being explored, because I think just really knowing how those decisions are being made and what that process is, there's many unknowns. You know, was it from FSN or purchasing? And then you dig deeper and you find out how that decision was made. So I think and this is, you know, it really goes into trying to not only establish that policy, but our future work with purchasing in the next coming month to try to incorporate this in their website, educate the staff, and also being able to include also how are the products being disposed? Is that being considered as part of that total cost in purchasing? So there's several aspects that we're looking at. I know there's some things were mentioned here as we're tackling some of these different areas in priority 6, and it's really exciting to just hear where everyone the collaboration that exists and how we can collaborate further to really resolve some of these issues and meet our goals with the CCAP. There's also, you know, we've also been meeting with environmental consultants on trying to evaluate the impact of implementing and doing a reusable study. And we're in early talks of that. So a lot of the things we're starting to plant the seed. More than anything, we wanted to re-energize our members in this committee, and we're also having at the beginning of the next month, we're having a priority 6 and 7 to really get the momentum going and spark the interest among our CCAP members and seeing how we can continue targeting this. So I just wanted to commend the students and say, you know, we're happy to continue collaborating and seeing where we could get your continued feedback in the future. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you for those additional updates, Ms. Garcia, and the relationship to the plastic bag purchasing and beyond. You did bring up the that there's actually, the costs to dispose as it is to purchase. I'll ask Olivia and Noah if the cost of disposal was something you researched.
That's something we went into depth with.
So that was we didn't quite hear you. That was something that did not come up in your research at this point.
We didn't really research that as in depth. I think we might have talked about it once, but not really.
Okay, great. Thanks for that update, and then also to Ms. Garcia for bringing that other element of looking at this problem into our work here. And so I guess we'll wrap our section with Ms. Novak and the responders to Ms. Novak, and then we will move on to the next agenda item.
Very briefly, 3 little things. I was in elementary school when we started that breakfast in the classroom, Ms. Kirkland, and I think it was championed by a council member. So I'm not sure about that, but that might be something you put on that could be a thing. Also, I really appreciated what you said about being respectful of reaching out to the schools, because I know our cafeteria is very compliant and very disciplined and dedicated. And they do say things like, you got to go back and pick a fruit. So I think they would appreciate the respect of, hey, we're making these changes and why. And finally, I just wanted to say, I agree also, a lot of our residual policies from COVID-19, that some of that's a fact.
All right, thank you so much for adding those additional thoughts, Ms. Novak. I did see that Mr. Meyer raised his hand, so I'm going to give him a chance to pop on here before we close this agenda section. All right, well, maybe we will circle back to him because I don't hear him coming on. But Mr. Meyer, oh, there he is.
Can you hear me now? I'm sorry. I'm on earphones.
Yep.
First, I just wanted to echo what everyone else said about the students doing a great job on this. But 2 very brief questions. One for the team from PGCPS, because we mentioned composting earlier. I know my school, Mount Rainier Elementary, is starting to implement breakfast composting in the classrooms with much smaller containers this school year. So I was curious how many schools total we have who would be doing breakfast composting across PGCPS. And then secondly, for the students, now that you've gone through this process of researching this question, was there anything else that jumped out that either you would want to do research on, or that you'd recommend for some future team of students to research as a similar question? Because this has been a great model to really watch your presentation and learn how you went through so many different steps. And it seems like something that we should be encouraging more students to do within PGCPS.
Thank you. Noah and Olivia, do you want to respond to that first?
Yes. So James is actually researching the topic. I think it was talked about once in this meeting about food waste and making changing up like food to make it foods that students would enjoy more, so that there's less food waste. So I definitely want to help them with that.
Thank you. That sounds like looking forward to hearing whatever the results are of that if we get it by the rest of the school year.
And anyone on the team know how many of the composting schools have moved to the step of the in the classroom composting bin? Not sure if we have, and
So
Ms.
I do
Levine
see
runs that.
Sarah on there. Sarah, did you want to answer that?
Can you hear me? There we go.
Yeah, can hear you. Mhm.
Yeah, so I don't have an exact number at this point for our schools. So we typically start in the cafeteria, right? We get the biggest bang for our buck in the cafeteria with all the food. And then we've been, moving into the classroom. But not all of our schools eat breakfast in the classroom. So that's the other factor too. So it really just, varies per school. But typically we're starting in the cafeteria. And then if they do eat in the classroom, that's kind of step 2, because it's a very different program that's run differently in the cafeteria versus in the classroom for collection.
Thank you so much for that update. It does sound like something that, and I'm sure Director Kirkland, you're working towards this, that as we explore anything related to our priorities in the food services at the building level, that a chart that has all of those differences around what type of program, how it's funded or not funded, or just general, and if the the alignments around composting are would be of great interest, how we do that. So it sounds like the program that at each of the schools is utilizing will have an impact. So it seems like that's a data point that if you're not, that would need to be tracked for all the future questions around this. And I didn't, after Mr. Meyer's questions, Director Kirkland, did you have any additional information to provide? Wasn't sure if there's something there for you to answer.
Not at the moment. No, I don't have any feedback. No.
Okay, great. Thank you. I didn't want to move on too quickly.
And thank you all. And once again, just great job to the students.
Thank you. So we're going to move to our final agenda item. We have about 9 minutes. It's about 9 of 6. We were going to try to end right at 6 today, working on, keeping our meetings to 90 minutes. We may go over a few minutes because I didn't want to rush into the agenda item without giving Olivia and Noah a chance to make any final comments about their experience and working with us today.
I just want to say thank you for everyone for giving us feedback and asking questions on our project.
Thank you. We learned a lot in this process, so thank you a lot, especially to everyone who helped us make it.
Yeah, thank you. And we thank you. I think we all did too. And I certainly took note of Mr. Noto comparing this to graduate level work. And there were moments, where I felt that stretch. So thank you. Outstanding job. So we have our final discussion for today's meeting, 2.4, discussion on student engagement for priority 5. Operational action 1, incorporate student, parents, staff, and community stakeholder input into PGCPS venues. And you'll note, there's a theme of today's meeting coming back to this #1 priority. And I'm going to once again have Ms. Novak start to introduce James, who will be presenting this section. Thank you, Ms. Novak.
Hey, everyone. James, former Kenmore student, current Parkdale student, serves on the PGRAS team, star of the show at Parkdale's performance of Cinderella, and just a really good job James does of picking the problem and then being driven on working to find a solution to it. And so what he's going to talk to you about today was, again, just a general discussion of food waste in the cafeteria, and then wondering if students enjoyed the food more, would there be less waste? And so, James, you're on.
Hey everybody, I hope you guys are having a great evening. I'm gonna share my screen right now. And I just have a short little presentation that I made. Um, okay. Can everybody see it? Good?
Yes.
Everything good? Okay. All right. So today I'll be giving a little update on student engagement on specifically priority recommendation number 5, which is reducing school waste and growing climate-friendly food. Now I'm going to start off with a little introduction to the topic and my connection to this topic. Now, during my time at Kenmore Middle School and Parkdale High School, I noticed that a lot of times after lunch, the waste bins were often full to the brim. And when I would go up to them and like try to see what was going on, a majority of the volume was actually food that was unfortunately being wasted and just thrown into the bin. And this discouraged me particularly because my family would always tell me stories about when they were living in Honduras and they never had enough money to have enough food. So just this whole topic on food waste is something that I connect to like dearly. And I figured a solution that would probably work best would be improving school food, as that's something that I've heard a lot from my peers at school and also when I attend meetings like PGRAS. Um, they were having a climate culture survey at one of our PGRAS General Assemblies, and one of the questions, a majority response was that school food, unfortunately, is not the best that what it could be. So, next, I want to talk about what steps I take next to resolve this issue. And the first thing that I did was I met with Miss Novick after a meeting, and I brought up this idea to her to receive some advice on what I should do next. And then from there, she actually planned a meeting with Miss Boother Strother, and then so that we could get her insights on the ideas. Um, and she thought it was a great idea and that we should meet with Miss Kirkland to get her opinion on it. And then we ended up meeting with Miss Kirkland, and that's where it was brought up the idea of having this student advisory board thing that the students would try food and then give their opinions on it and see what adjustments could be made to the menu. And that this was something that I believe what we're trying to do right now. Um, and one point that I really want to bring up is that looking at CCAP's history with this priority recommendation, like it was stated, this was an operational action that was a part of the original climate change action plan document all the way back in 2022. But it's theorized that because of the shift in directors, unfortunately, this initiative wasn't successful. But I just thought this leaves us with a new start, and we can start fresh with Miss Kirkland, and that we can implement this again, and we can really make some positive change in food waste and school menus and everything like that. Um, so that was it. It's just a little update. I want to say thank you to Miss Novick, Miss Kirkland, Mr. Roberson, and of course everybody on the CCAP team for giving me guidance and my next steps on this issue.
All right, fantastic, James. Thank you so much. And, again, I want to commend you for bringing forward to this committee your passion around this issue. And, thank you for, you know, um, having the bravery to bring it forward, also to bring in your personal experience and to seek the help needed to be able to be a student leader in this area. And so with, now we can, to the members of the committee, this is a time to both reflect on the presentation or ask specific questions that you're interested in this priority area. So I'll give a second if there's any hands that will go, any hands for this topic area? Ms. Kwok?
Hi again. Thank you, James. Also, I appreciate, I'm sorry, I'm working out right now, so I'm a little bit out of breath. But thank you so much for your presentation. Just like Pamela said, the connection that you have to the issue really highlights the significance of it, and sort of puts front and center sort of the stereotype about America and lots of abundant resources, but they all go to waste. And what can we do, especially when it comes to advancing some of our sustainability goals? So I'm really glad that you raised that. I think one challenge that I see at the federal level, and I don't know how this is going to play out anymore given what's happening at the federal level, but there are very powerful food lobbies that have historically pushed for their food items to be part of what is offered at schools. And I worry that while I completely agree with the premise of your inquiry and the need to get the root of the problem, like part of the issue is that if students don't want to eat it, they're going to waste it. And you're going to see full cans of milk or full packaged items in the trash. And there's really no way around that. If we continue to push foods because we're going by political interest rather than what students want. So this might not be I'd love to hear your thoughts, James, in terms of what you think could be a way forward when it comes to really dealing with some of these food lobbies. And then maybe for Ms. Kirkland or for Ms. Morrison, like what are PGCPS's tactics for dealing with that kind of influence, especially if we want to see change in what it's offered in cafeterias. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. So James, would you like to reflect first?
Thank you for the great question. I will ask if I could have could you ask the question again? I just couldn't really understand it. I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries. I think my ultimate question is, with all the good intentions of trying to address what is offered through PGCPS, are there more systemic structural challenges when it comes to having to also negotiate with powerful food lobbies that have their own, industrial interests and incentives that will oftentimes conflict with what students want and what they will eat? So just curious if you had thoughts on, how to navigate that, and then also for our PGCPS colleagues. Thanks.
Honestly, that's such a complicated and you really need to spend time thinking about that question. And I would definitely need some time to construct my answer. So if any other like Ms. Kirkland would want to reflect on that.
Absolutely. So I think in terms of understanding that food nutrition does have guidelines that we have to work within, that we have to abide by. Like we have to have whole grain. We have to we have to have a certain amount of sugar. We can only have a certain amount of sodium. So a lot of our vendors that we work with, they create items that fall within that realm. And so we know when things don't have a lot of salt in them, it's not as tasty. We know that when everybody does like sugar, but we have to have, there's guidelines that we have to meet by literally next year in terms of our sugar, how much sugar is offered within the week for students at each grade level. And so we know that we have those barriers, but I know that we have, our vendors are working very hard to ensure that they stay within those guidelines, but they also provide food options for students that fall under K-12 that they will find tasty.
I will say, currently, tomorrow, for James, for Noah, and for Olivia, tomorrow I think it's on the middle school menu. It's this week, but we have a new chicken tender that's on the menu. It is by Tyson. And it's a Tennessee hot and spicy, but it's not too spicy. But we switched our chicken tender because our vendor no longer made the one they were currently making. While no, we didn't do a huge taste test, in getting feedback from our cafeteria managers, when we had them come in for training, we had them do a taste test and give us feedback based on what they know their students like. And so that's how we landed on that tender that you guys will see moving forward on the menu. So my hope is that we haven't established a way to get that feedback, but if you all taste it, please feel free to email me and let me know. But I think that these tenders here work, specifically this tender here, it's made with whole muscle. So it's something that they will actually see if they were to go out to a restaurant. We try to make sure that it doesn't just taste like what they want to taste like, but it looks familiar as well too. So then it doesn't look like, oh, this is just school food. No, this is something you could actually pick up at the store if you wanted to. So I think our vendors really try to work within that barrier. The barrier that could be seen, it could be seen as a barrier in terms of the regulations, but I think our vendors do a very great job in making great products for our students to enjoy in schools. It's just a matter of getting the right product for our students based on what it is they like.
Thank you both so much for responding. And I think, you know, when I hear a big company name like Tyson providing the chicken nuggets, that begins to I know I certainly began to understand what that looks like in public school food services. Any other questions before I move to adjournment?
Yeah.
Mr. Meyer?
Sorry, I didn't put my hand up.
In direct form.
Thank you. Once again, I'll make this quick, but question for, again, the PTCPS team. Many of these regulations come from the federal level. Are there any that you deal with at the state level where we could at least do state level advocacy to try to improve the options available to you?
So the regulations that we get, like it comes from USDA. USDA gives that to the state, and then the state then gives that to the LEA, which is Prince George's County or the school district. So I think you could lobby at the state for it. You could be an advocate at the state level, but to know that they are, my understanding is that the USDA gives them the guidelines. They make the rules based on the state and how it fits within the state, depending on the program and what they can and cannot change. And then that's what they push down for the LEAs to then abide by. But in terms of nutritionals and things of that nature, I think that is something that happens, since at the federal level, that's like nationwide who has to meet those requirements. I don't think that's something that we can actually change, because when you look at it, it's lowering sodium, lowering sugar, and they have given us, I believe, a 5-year plan to make sure that we get those numbers down to meet the requirements by 2026 and then some by 2027.
Thank you very much. And we've spent a lot of time doing work in Annapolis over the last couple of months. And so if there's ever any, I'll say, Annapolis interpretation of something where you think it would make your job easier to have it be interpreted differently, if you could just try to make sure you flag that with the board. I know that the overall guidelines come from the federal, but if there's anything at all at the state level where we have at least a little bit more control, just requesting to flag that for the board and for the administration.
Absolutely. I will say currently MMFA is something that we can help to change at the state level in terms of the guidelines when it comes to elementary schools, because those we still have to feed the elementary students in the classroom. Only secondary students can go through the line and eat from a kiosk.
So just
Thank-
putting that out there.
Thank you very much for that clarification.
Yeah, I just took notes for board priorities. Thank you, as we think about the next legislative session. So we're going to go to Director Morrison and then Ms. Wunderlich.
Yeah, just two quick comments. James, I definitely admire your passion. My mom always used to say, willful waste brings willful want, right? Whatever that means, I guess we all can figure that out. But I think, taste can be acquired. And I think that you hit the nail on the head when you talked about, going back to the whole student advisory board. I actually read that survey that Director Kirkland mentioned earlier. And what I read, most of the students wanted food that maybe tasted like what they had at home. And, Prince George's County Public School System is now very, very diverse. So, I mean, some talked about jerk chicken, some talked about Middle Eastern type stuff. So I know it's going to be hard to, accommodate everything, but I think that's a place to start to figure out what it is that the students are asking for. Another point that I want to put in, this is just from my personal perspective, you can make a food tasty really just by herbs and spices. And herbs and spices have nutritional value as well that are good for the students. But, that's for a different, I guess, conversation. We can go into details at a later date. But yeah, so there are ways to avoid the salt and the sugar, which may be bad for you, and then focus on the herbs and spices, which are much, much healthier. So I just wanted to make those comments. That's all. Thank you again, James. Appreciate your passion.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Wunderlich.
Good evening, and thank you to all the students for their great presentations, their studies and inquiries. I really appreciate it. James, I was wondering if because I know some of this is education as well as trying to capture current like student preferences and taste and how we align those with like what's available and what can become available so we reduce food waste. There's so many influencers on TikTok and Instagram that are really they're really consolidating like how to have like healthy snacks for athletes, like how to have like how to really punchy like 1 2 3s on like what you should eat before a practice, after a practice, or in the morning when you wake up and things like that. I feel like there's a little bit of like encouraging students to expand what they want to eat and how they want to eat it based on how they want to more brain power, more strength, more whatever. Have you guys thought at all about like how to leverage any of the social media and helping with the education around nutrition?
So, these are some really good questions. So, I definitely think social media is a very important part in all students' lives in all aspects. And we can use social media as a way to, give like educate them in a way, like you were saying. Um, Sorry, I'm a little nervous while answering these questions, but yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, thank you, James.
Thank you. Ms. Burton, I think you'll be our final question.
Oh, sorry. Wasn't just like a question. I guess the question could be, since I will be interacting with parents at Brighter Bites school sites, this could be an opportunity to better educate families about the benefits of school meals and all of the constraints that you were mentioning, Mary. I'm not sure if parents are aware of all of that and that these meals are actually nutritious for their child. So maybe there's some materials that we could share so that they understand that, so they take advantage of what's being provided for them.
Great. Thank you for making that connection to Brighter Bites, which is at our community schools, utilizing community schools funds to participate in that program as well as the grant funded program. So Director Kirkland, did you have a response to that as well?
I am very aligned in, I think there's a lot of information for FNS that we have that I want to put out there, so that parents know. I'll just say as simply as our menus right now, right? There, we have Meal Viewer where our menus can be viewed and you can see them for the month and the next month, and it tells you the calorie counts. And if you have a child that has an allergy, it has the big I think the big 8 or the big 9, and you can click on it and it'll show you what they can and cannot eat. So just from that perspective, knowing that I believe PG has had that for a while now, I believe, but a lot of parents may or may not know that that exists. I'm trying to, and you mentioned social media. I'm trying to get a social media page for FNS, so then we can connect with the students in that way, because I think that is one way in which we can connect with students. And so even having the resources for parents to know, like, okay, these are the new regs that are out, and this is, what you can expect to see coming up on our menus, and for them to know that we do have fresh fruit, we do have fresh vegetables. And while a lot of things may seem processed, because they're made with whole muscle. They're made with all white meat. So these are still things that are still healthy for our students to consume. And so just being able to give that information to parents, so they don't just see chicken tenders and think like, oh, okay, it's just a random chicken tender or just a random chicken nugget like they have at McDonald's. No, this one is actually curated for K-12 to provide a certain type of nutrition for students. So that's something that I am definitely interested in, and putting out there, for all aspects, even like farm applications as well too.
Thank you so much. So seeing no more hands before I move to adjournment, first, just James, thank you so much for your leading of this agenda item. And one thing that all of our student presenters here today, and I think the many students that will be at the Student Environmental Alliance Summit tomorrow are representative of PGCPS's strategic plan that, at least 5 of us on this committee have current children in the school system, and appreciate that the student learner profile. And I just wanted to reiterate how, and you'll see Miss Novick is teaching to this student learner profile, and you saw it here today. It's our students will graduate as global citizens, communicators, critical thinkers, creators and innovators, and goal-directed leaders, learners. And I think you saw that all evidence today, and that is a testament to our educators who are bringing the 5 critical student learner profile pieces to their PGCPS education. So I want to thank them. I also want to give a thank you and shout out to Dr. David Reese, who is our Director of Equity, Diversity, and Belonging. He provided the model of the to have a problem of practice model that I had watched him utilize during a special education town hall, and asked if he would provide that for our students to do to bring to this discussion. So we want to thank him as well. I do see that Ms. Adline and Director Kirkland raised their hands. Before I get to adjournment, I want to make sure to call on them. We're having trouble hearing your sound. Still not clear. How about if we go to Director Kirkland and come back to you?
I just I'm still getting familiar with the acronyms. What does PGRAS stand for? What's a PGRAS student? Sorry.
Great question, James.
Yeah, I can answer that. PGRAS stands for the Prince George's Regional Association of Student Governments. So if you're thinking about like SGAs on the school level, PGRAS is like the next level, the county level, county-wide decisions. And it's basically just a group of students that works with the SGAs across the county.
I would love to be more connected with that group in some way. Just putting that out there.
Actually, I am the environmental outreach liaison, so I can definitely get you connected with us.
Well, I'll be in touch.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And James, if I'm not mistaken, if there's a PGRAS website that I think if someone just Googles PGCPS, is it PG? Can you, James, remind us of the actual letters in the PGRAS?
Yes. PGRASG. PGRASG.
At the end.
Thank you. And so for anyone on this committee interested, the students do maintain a website, and the leaders and all the different focus areas are on that website, and across many aspects of student health and wellness interests. So thank you for that. And then Ms. Adeline, hopefully your sound is clear so we could hear. I think you have something you need to tell us.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I was just asking if we could get a copy of the PowerPoints that were shared this evening so we can have them uploaded to Board Docs, please.
Great. Thank you for that reminder. We will archive those PowerPoints for all of us to go back to in Board Docs. So now, and I want to thank everyone for staying for the additional 20 minutes. As I noted, I am, as your chair, working towards a 90-minute meeting for all of us. I know quite a few people have after school activities that we need to be mindful of by 6 o'clock. So I will move to 3.0, adjourn, 3.1, adjournment. The next virtual climate change action plan ad hoc committee meeting will be held on June 25th, 2025. Thank you all so much for these meaningful discussions. There being no further business, the time is now 6:21 p.m. and the April 23rd, 2025 meeting is adjourned. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Night, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.